Welcome back. Tip of the day, Taiji, Bagua, WTBA, Eli Montague, tip of the day. What I want to say today is glute activation. It's something you might be doing perfectly fine without even thinking about it. If your body functions as it should, you shouldn't need to think about this. However, some people's bodies don't function as they should. I know this from my own personal experience because I once injured myself, and after that injury, my glutes stopped working in certain positions. The test that was done on me, I was lying face down on the table, and he asked me just to lift my leg to the, so I'm face down on a table, you know, a massage table, and he asked me to lift my leg like this. And as I lifted it, I could only lift it like not very much. And he's feeling the different muscles. And he's like, right, your hamstrings are flexing like hell. Your lower back's really flexing, but your glutes are totally inactive. Nothing was happening. Of course, the glute, that would be the primary muscle that should be flexing to do that kind of work, right? That's your primary power source there. So it wasn't flexing. This was because of the injury that I'd had at the time. So the neurological pathways, the nerves, whatever, I'm no expert on that side of things, but something wasn't clicking in there. So I simply started being conscious about my glutes with anything that I would practice. Even just walking down the street, I'd just, literally as I'm walking, as I extend the leg to the rear, I'd put my mind on my glute and squeeze that glute. So I just brought the activation back into the glutes. And after a while, the problem went away. Now when I kick out to the rear, it's like I have to really, if I wanted to do it without the glute, I can still do it, but I've really got to focus to try to not engage the glute. So that's great. My body's working correctly again. But if you have this lazy glute syndrome, this can cause problems in your form, in your Qigong, and just in general daily life. You can get lots of lower back tension and all sorts of things if your glutes are being lazy and not firing when they should be firing. Because of course your glutes are a big, I think they are classed as the biggest muscle in the human body. So if they're not working, they're such a big muscle, which means that they're designed to do a very large job. So if they're not doing their job, it means a bunch of other smaller muscles are trying to do the job for them, which they're not capable of doing that job very well. So in which case it causes tension, then causes back pain. So I want to show you a couple of things. We'll look at a bow stance first. So your bow stance in your Taiji form, or similar stances in your Bagua forms and so on, whichever. And anything that's kind of a lunged forward type of position. Okay, so front weighted, bent knee, extended leg to the rear. So first things first, anytime you are switching your weight, so if I shift to the rear, that glute should have made me go there. You see, this glute, not just this, I can consciously switch off my glute. When you do this, stick your fingers in your glutes, poke your own glutes and see what they're doing. So when I move that way, straight away, I feel more the side of the glute because it's pushing me this way. I feel it go bling, it turns on. And then when I shift back this way, straight away, there, I can feel this glute really squeezing and activating. So that's pushing me and moving my body when I'm moving around. So that should be happening. So if you put your fingers there and you do some postures and just kind of generally move around, and you're feeling your glutes activating and contracting, you shouldn't have a problem. But I'll give you another couple of other things to look at. If I take a bow stance, okay, like so, and I consciously turn off the glute, what I feel is a lack of power, a lack of grounding. I don't feel stable. I feel all the pressure has been concentrated onto here. My thigh's already starting to get a little sore because it's doing the work all by itself, which it shouldn't be. But the worst thing is, I feel like the weight, it's like the pressure through the knee joint is going out here. It's pushing out of the knee joint. It's not transmitting down the leg where it should be. As soon as I turn this glute, so I don't know if you can see that, but see, it's soft. It's not doing anything. As soon as I put it back into place, now it's hard. It's like all that pressure which is going out that way, the glutes pulled it back into its correct pathway. Same goes for the rear one, because that's pushing me forward, so that should be activated, and that should be pushing myself forward, so that glute's active as well. If I'm holding it as a static position, right, so I've moved, at the moment this glute would be most active because it's pushing me forward. But then if I stop and actually just hold it, if I was going to hold it as a static Qigong or something, then this glute's going to be more active because of course my weight is 70% over that leg. But just try that, fiddle around with it so that you know the difference between the two. It's very, very good practice for yourself to know what's wrong, what is an incorrect feeling. Because if you don't know what an incorrect feeling is, you might not notice it when it happens. But if you analyze it and say, okay, if I turn off this glute, oh shit, yeah, okay, all my pressure, it's like, ugh. It's like the pressure's going forward. I feel all this excessive tension here. So now I know if I feel that at any time during my form, maybe it's because my glutes are being lazy and they're not switching on where they should be. So now pull that glute back into place. Yeah, that's good now. That's action. It's on cue. Everything's happening as it should be happening. The glutes are working. The biggest muscle in your body is doing its job. Another area you can look at this is your Qigong, your normal Qigong stance. Now, when you've got lazy glutes, you might find that they're not switching on in your Qigong stance. So, for example, if they're not switched on, what's going to be happening? If my glutes turn off, my body wants to fall forward because it's my glutes which are flexing and pulling my body. What happens if you do like a straight-legged deadlift? What do? You're activating the glutes, aren't you? They're the primary area, glutes and hamstrings. Yes, your lower back is of course doing some work, but your glutes have got to be really firing there. So if I'm standing here and my glutes are off, chances are it's going to cause my back to arch. And then I could use my abdominal muscles to pull that back under to counteract that, so now at least my back's not arched. But now I'm essentially using just my back muscles to try to keep my body in that upright position and stop myself from leaning forward. So again, I'm using the wrong muscles to do a job. I'm using very small muscles to do the job that a big muscle was designed to do. A really good tip with any of this stuff to know if you... Hold on one second. Okay, so to know which muscles should be activating when you're doing certain postures. Sometimes because, like what we're doing here, your arms don't weigh very much, do they? Okay, so because your arms don't weigh very much, you can maybe be a little bit unsure. Is my glutes supposed to be active? Which muscles are supposed to be squeezing to hold myself in that structure? Because there's such a small amount of weight, I can stand there, for example, and purposefully switch off my glutes. So my glutes are now relatively off. And because I'm only just standing here for a few seconds, I don't feel anything really majorly. I mean, I can feel a disconnect because I know what the correct and incorrect feeling is. But the average person, they're probably just going to not even realize. So a really good tip, and this tip applies to anything where you're trying to figure out which muscles should be activating, add weight. I'm not saying you should do your Qigong with a big weight in your hands, by the way. It's just a test. If I hold this weight, it's not that heavy. What is it? 8 kilos. So it's just, you know, just comfortable enough that you can hold without stressing yourself out too much, but heavy enough to put some pressure on you. If I hold that straight away, oh yeah, whoa, my glutes are firing, right? They're pumped. Because all this weight out the front, in fact, my glutes feel like they're doing more work now than my thighs are. Because there's more pressure, because of this extra weight, there's more pressure pulling my body forward than there is weight going down. Because of course this is out here, so it's only 8 kilos, but it's got a lever. It's right out here in a weak position. So if you stand here with your weight hanging down, you go, okay, my glutes are all switched off and not activating, then lift it up. Oh, as soon as I move it just a couple of inches away from the body, the glutes, boom, fire. They fire straight away in that position. Not only the glutes, but you'll feel the back muscles firing. All your back muscles are firing, because if they don't, you'll fall forward. Your back muscles and your glutes, everything in the back is holding your body up in that position. Now, When you're just doing your Qigong, it's only the weight of your arms. So that same activation that I just felt with the added weight, you should still be feeling the same activation, just on a far lesser level. So now when I stand here and do my Qigong, I can't even feel my glutes. Because they're so slightly, if I literally take my hand and go like this, yeah, okay, they're a little bit turned on. They're not flabby, but they're not really tense either. They're just kind of, yeah, they're active sort of thing. Same goes for my back muscles. If I squeeze my back muscles, they're definitely active, but not really active, because there's a very light amount of weight on them. So again, those of you who maybe don't know too much about muscles and everything, I'll show you my tiny little biceps. But if I, wait, I need my weight again. Okay, so if I lift my arm like this, right? Okay, right now, my biceps are flexing to stop my arm from dropping. Biceps are flexing, but if you look at the bicep itself, look, I mean, you can tell, it's fairly pliable, look, even though it's turned on. Now, if I take that 8 kilo weight in my arm, now look, it's much, you can see just by looking at it, you can see there's a lot more tension running through it. It's much harder, okay? So by adding that weight to the movement or to the posture and feeling which muscles should be activated to hold that in the most structurally sound position, you can then learn which muscles should be active. So a lot of people, for example, like round the shoulders or something, because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Oh, okay, so that's got to be squeezing. Those have got to be squeezing. That's got to be tucking. Glutes have got to be firing to sort of push my body upwards so that it doesn't fall forwards. And all of those muscles that should be firing to get my body back to that vertical position. Pretty much everything in the back, the front will be fairly relaxed, you see. Whereas if I did the opposite, if I took that weight, I've never tried this before, but yeah, if I put it out here like this, now my core, now this is flexing, because of course I'm stopping myself from bending backwards because the weight now is at the opposite side. So when you're doing your Qigong, the only weight, there's no weight at the back. That's all vertical. There's nothing protruding from the back. There's something protruding, no matter how light it is, it's something protruding from the front. Therefore, the back muscles, everything, pretty much everything down your back has to be just activated very gently, because it's a very light weight. The more weight you put, the more activation. So glutes, hamstrings, lower back, upper back, all around here, everything is active to hold that correct. If anything starts going too soft, nah. And see, this is where the problem comes when people think about Taiji and being soft. We don't want to be soft. We want to be soft where you're supposed to be soft, but we don't want to just relax. I made that mistake myself when I was younger, when I was learning. And I sort of like, oh, Taiji, soft, yeah, everything's soft. So turn off all the muscles that I don't need to use. But of course, that meant I had very poor structure. So yeah, to engage the correct muscles actually means your body will be softer because you're spreading out the load. You might think in the very short term, you might think, oh yeah, that's softer now, and that's softer, and that's softer in the short term. But in the long term, you've now just turned off all those muscles. So just that one muscle that's left is doing the job of all the other muscles. If you spread the workload out over several muscle groups, over all the muscle groups that should be doing the work, as long as they're designed for it. Sometimes you can incorporate muscles which aren't designed to do the work. So you could say, oh, well, I'm still spreading it out over more muscles. But if those muscles aren't properly designed to do that particular work, that's going to cause excessive tension as well. So essentially, moving your body correctly, and you can learn that from anyone, any good personal trainer who does weight training and so on, they will be able to tell you how your body should function. There is no difference in how I structure my body when I hold my Qigong as to how I structure my body when I do a deadlift, for example, or an overhead press. I'm not saying it's the same shape. Obviously, you're leaning forward. but I'm saying the principles of understanding which muscles should be firing at which for any given movement or posture. And yeah, just simply loading yourself up with a little bit of weight, you can go, oh yeah, okay, so those have got to be turned on, those have got to be turned on, otherwise it pulls me forward. You can feel what muscles should or should not be working. Thank you very much. Hope that's given you some good ideas to play with.